Hello and welcome to my in-depth guide for the roaming warrior. If you're looking for a more hands-on demonstration of this build, let me redirect you to my first commentary video, which does a pretty good job of that. The best way to describe this build is as a floating powerhouse. He's able to get in, kill, and get out very fast and extremely efficiently. Let's first talk about the trait tree and talent choices. We want to maximize our points in arms, which gives precision and condition damage. Put 10 points into tactics for a single trait, and max out discipline, which can increase our critical damage by 30% and an increase to burst damage by 3%, which can be somewhat helpful. Let's talk about the tactics tree first. The first talent in tactics is Determined Revival, which is basically a filler for us to get to leg specialist, which immobilizes targets when they cripple. Every weapon set in this guide has some cripple, making it a must-have talent, especially when the need to stop targets from advancing can be point captured versus point contested. Let's now look at the arms tree. The first given talent, Precise Strikes, is a decent talent to this build, as it just does more damage output. I chose Rending Strikes for the next talent solely because it's the only beneficial talent, aside from possibly Deep Cuts, which can increase bleed durations by 50%. The next given talent, Critical Burst, works hand in hand with the main hand weapon Axe's Eviscerate. This skill is used to finish those opponents in a here's your chance kind of way. The next talent I chose for this build was Opportunist. This talent grants Fury to the warrior whenever he immobilizes a target. You can quickly see how the first chosen talent from Tactics synergizes very well with this talent. This literally means you will have 100% uptime of Fury in fights, as long as cripples are not dodge rolled or missed. As we move on, we find the next given talent, Attack of Opportunity. This talent increases the damage to bleeding foes by 10%. As we look back to the first given talent in this tree, Precise Strikes, we can see how insane this trait can be for us since we're stacking plus damage percentage. For the longest time I have struggled with the last talent for this tree, and what to choose. I had always ran with Forceful Greatsword for the lower cooldowns, but I have now come to see that the cooldowns are right on. The last talent I choose for this tree is Last Chance. I chose this purely because as a roamer, there are going to be plenty of one-on-one situations. Having two frenzies in a duel is almost ridiculous, in fact it is. With the cooldown being only 90 seconds, this can definitely be a no-brainer. As we move on down to the discipline tree, we can see all the traits do not go above 6. And that is simply because all the traits past that, for this build, stink. Go ahead and look them up, except for maybe Sweet Revenge. The first given trait, Versatile Rage, which grants adrenaline on weapon swap, is great for the second part of the fight when you switch to Axe to pop Eviscerate. Ensuring that the rage meter is filled only means more damage. The first chosen trait, Warrior Sprint, increases the warrior's movement speed while wielding melee weapons. As a roamer, this is a must-have for getting around more quickly. The second given trait, Fast Hands, is purely convenient. Accidentally weapon swap too early, it'll be off cooldown soon. The next trait I chose was Heightened Focus. This gives an across-the-board 2, 5, or 9% increase to critical chance. This is the only trait I feel in this tree that can be swapped out for Sweet Revenge. In fact, I'm going to switch that now. The next given trait is Versatile Power, which gives a might buff on weapon swap, which is nice, but nothing crazy. The last trait I've chosen, and possibly the most important, is Signet Mastery. This trait makes Signets recharge 20% faster, which is perfect considering the elite should be popped every fight. This makes the recharge a measly 48 seconds, which means there should only be 15 seconds where the elite is not ready. I know that was a lot, but we've got more to cover. Let's go ahead and look very quickly at our healing and utility abilities. Our basic roaming abilities are Bull's Charge, which can offer mobility and knockdowns, Frenzy, which generates our burst, and Endure Pain, which negates incoming damage for 5 seconds. There are many times in which a player will want to change out Bull's Charge for Balanced Stance, for example trying to steal NPCs from the enemy teams or going for the Guild Lord. They may also want to change out Frenzy at times when they're required to bunker, or rather hold a position and stop enemies from advancing. I prefer changing out Frenzy for Fear Me, because it can provide up to 3 seconds of the enemy running away unable to control their character. We will talk more about role switching later on. As for a healing skill, the main go-to skill should be Healing Surge. This offers the biggest burst of healing even without any adrenaline. The only time this skill should be changed is when versing a very heavy condition damage player. The warrior should then pick Mending before the fight. As for the elite, Signet of Rage is pretty much the bee's knees. The only time it should be changed is when approaching a team fight when most of the friendly team is either going down or already down. Popping Battle Standard can provide a quick rally for multiple downed players, and very strong buffs to turn the tide of battle. As for Rampage, don't use Rampage. Let's now look at our weapons and gear. For our runes, it's pretty plain and simple. 6 out of 6 superior runes of Rage. This increases our damage of crits, while under the effects of Fury, by 15%, the highest amount of all rune sets. Our standard amulet jewel is Berserker's Amulet. This offers us an amazing amount of power, crit damage, and precision, which is perfect for this build. Get in, blow up, get out. Rinse and repeat. Our main weapon sets are the Greatsword along with the Axe and Shield. It may seem strange, but from the testing that I've done on dummies, I found that having Sigil of superior accuracy on both weapons does more damage than Sigil of superior force, which is an increase of 5% damage. As for the shield, I like to roll with Sigil of superior Hydromancy. This is because of the combo. Having that slow on weapon swaps just closes the gap. Like I said at the beginning, if you want the basic strategy to this build, go ahead and bounce over to this video. I will now be going over mid-match gear swapping, which can sometimes be what gets you the stomp or what gets you stomped. You may have noticed earlier in the video that I have other weapons and amulets in my inventory. That's not for testing purposes, those are for actual in-game gear swapping. Due to the need of having to press escape a lot in order to use rush effectively, I strongly recommend checking disable closing windows with escape. This way we can keep our inventory open the whole match. As I open my inventory, you can see I like to keep Warhorn and Sword in the first 2 slots. This is because they are used for mobility and used frequently. The next is Hammer, which is used much less. I like to use the Hammer when there's a team fight and more crowd control is needed over damage. This would be a good time to also change Bull's Charge to Balance Stance and Frenzy to Fear Me. The last weapon, which I personally use the least and sometimes never at all, is the rifle. The rifle should be used only when versing enemies with extreme amounts of toughness. You can quickly find out mid-match which enemies have their toughness amulets on. We use the rifle because the basic attack causes bleeding, and it's not affected by toughness, it goes off health. Considering this build already has 300 points in condition damage, it's a why not option. Along with switching out weapons, amulets can be switched out as well. The first amulet I like to keep ready is the Knight's Amulet. This greatly decreases the damage output of the warrior, but it increases our health pool by about 6,000 HP, perfect for fighting condition heavy classes. The next necklace, Valkyrie's Amulet, is perfect for when having team fights against a lot of non-condition damage. With this amulet, the damage output still maintains pretty high, but the defenses have now skyrocketed. In some situations, it may be required for the warrior to be a bunker. That's why I keep the Soldier's Amulet beneath the hammer, so I can quickly choose both before the enemy advances. The Warrior's Amulet offers great defensive and offensive traits. Truly a must-have for non-support bunker. Having this option to sub mid-matches makes the roaming warrior a force to be reckoned with. The last and least used amulet is Carrion's Amulet. This should only be used with the rifle, just to add some extra damage to those bleed ticks. This wraps up my comprehensive guide to the roaming warrior. If you would like to see some in-game footage, please check out this video. There will be more videos of mid-match amulet swapping soon to come. Thank you very much for watching my guide. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did like it, please toss me a thumbs up, it'd be very much appreciated. Thank you very much again for watching my guide, and I hope to see you soon on the battlefields.